Hi, readers. Today I want to talk about another skill that we need to practice or be aware of as we are reading fantasy, okay? And as you, being a sophisticated reader of fantasy, you know that in our last session we talked about researching the setting of fantasy stories, how sometimes fantasy could take place in the future, it could take place in medieval times, it could take place in the current time, right? With magical elements within a real world, just like in Harry Potter or Narnia, even if you think of it that way, being able to go from one world to another. So today we're going to talk about how readers of fantasy learn alongside the main character, okay? And what that means is as we're reading these stories and we as readers are finding out about information, it's the first time we're hearing it, but it's also the first time that the character is hearing it. So we're learning with the characters. Okay, so a lot of historical fiction and fantasy novels are structured like this. It kind of lets the author fill the readers in on important stuff they need to know. Okay, this way you're not going to read about a whole background of a story and then read the story. It makes it interesting as readers for us to learn and grow with the characters. So one thing that happens in harder fantasy when the author tries to help the reader is they give us information from the characters. So think about Lucy, okay, when she first meets Mr. Tumnus in Narnia. She didn't know what Narnia is, and as readers, we didn't know what Narnia was either. We learned by listening to Mr. Tumnus explain to Lucy. And in a moment, I'm going to show you that clip from the movie. We did read that in our books already, okay? I know we've only gotten up to chapter 4. You should have listened to chapter 5 today. But think about how the characters started out, Lucy in particular, without knowing anything, right? She went into this wardrobe and she ended up in this land. She had no idea where she was. It was only because of Mr. Tumnus that she was able to figure out that she was in this world called Narnia. So as a reader, we found that out the same time that Lucy found that out, okay? So as you watch this clip, and I'm going to show you in a second, we're going to see that Lucy's learning all about Narnia from Mr. Tumnus, okay? It's just a few minutes long, so pay attention and think about how we are learning the same time that Lucy is. Okay, so this is Lucy meets Mr. Tumnus. And this will be able to give you some visuals of the characters also.
Were you hiding from me?
No. Well, no, I was just, I didn't want to scare you.
If you don't mind my asking, what are you?
Well, I'm a thorn. And what about you? You must be some kind of beardless dwarf?
I'm not a dwarf.
Well,
I'm a girl. And actually, I'm tallest in my class.
you mean to say that you're a daughter of Eve?
Well, my mum's name is Helen.
Yes, but you are, in fact, human.
Yes, of course.
What are you doing here?
Well, I was hiding in the wardrobe in the spare room. And
Spare room? Is that Narnia?
Narnia? What's that?
Oh, dear girl, you're in it. Everything from the lamppost all the way to Castle Cair Paravel on the Eastern Ocean. Every stick and stone you see, every icicle, is Narnia.
It's an awfully big wardrobe.
I'm sorry, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tumnus.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus. I'm Lucy Pevensey.
Okay, so we're going to stop there. So as you can see, Lucy was finding out about Narnia the same time we as readers found out about Narnia. As we get through complicated stories like these fantasy novels, the main character begins usually without a lot of knowledge, right? Lucy was just a little girl from London coming into this house and going into the wardrobe to hide before she came into this world that she had nothing, no knowledge of. So as readers, you need to be alert when the main characters told important information, just so you know that we can learn hand in hand with the characters. So these are some important moments, and they call them signposts, but what they mean are just places where you need to be alert, okay, in your reading to kind of see, oh, I might be learning something here. So some of those are direct questions and answers. So for example, we just saw that in the movie clip, right? When he said spare room, because remember Lucy said, oh, I was in the spare room. He said, spare room, is that in Narnia? She said, what is Narnia, right? So that was a direct question. And then we got the answer from Mr. Tumnus. Well, Narnia is all of this land, every stick here, okay? We also can find out new information, and they can be learning moments for us and for our characters when we hear explanations or stories. So, for example, think about how Lucy went to Mr. Tumnus's his house, right, his little cave, and he was telling her all kinds of stories about his family and about his about Narnia and how there's this white witch there and she cast a spell and it's always winter, never Christmas. Okay, so we as readers were learning that as Lucy was learning that. And then unfamiliar experiences. So these are just moments where you might think as a reader, ooh, let me pay extra attention to that. Okay. Another really important part of reading alongside the main character that you'll notice is that as you're paying attention to the characters and you're visualizing the stories, you're going to begin to infer. And if you remember what infer means, I talked to you about this in class. It means being able to kind of read in between the lines, is what we like to say. The author might not state it exactly, right? But we as readers can put things together to come up with an idea in our head. So for instance, if I told you outside it's looking very dark and there's clouds overhead, the air feels strange, you might infer that it's going to rain. I didn't tell you it's going to rain, but you used those clues. So as readers, we can use clues in the stories to almost know a little bit more than the main character. Maybe we see something or we read something that we could think, oh, don't go in that door, or oh, don't do this, okay? So sometimes as readers, you're going to actually know more than the main character and be able to infer ahead of the character. You might realize something before the character does. It's like you want to shout, don't you realize what's going on? Don't do that. Don't talk to this person. Okay, and that's how you know that you're learning alongside the main character and you're being able to pay attention to those little clues in there. And we'll talk more about this when we get through Chapter 6. I know you listened to Chapter 5 today. When we get through Chapter 6, we're going to talk about this and some things that Edmund maybe figured out. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. Remember, as sophisticated readers of fantasy, you research the setting and you also learn alongside the main character. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.